चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पातञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. I prostrate with folded hands before Patanjali, who benefited mankind by delivering yoga for mind, grammar for speech, and by removing impurities of body through medicine. So in the last class, we were studying the 9th sutra of the first chapter, which deals with one of the vrittis, which is known as vikalpa, which was translated as verbal delusion. So what it actually means, the verbal delusion, as we told, that when we are speaking some words which has no corresponding reality, then though we may imagine from that word something we can imagine, but in reality that won't have any corresponding reality. So it happens in our life when the children are watching the cartoon movies, all those cartoons, they're all imaginations. So they're not the reality. So then what happens? That the vritti, which corresponds to that imagination, is known as vikalpa. And we studied in details that how it has actually helped the human race to evolve. Because in a way, our language, our scripts, everything is vikalpa. The word vikalpa actually means substitute. Then why we use it for the verbal delusion? Because we will find that the language substitutes the reality. Suppose I have say flower. Immediately there is no flower in your presence. But just by hearing the word red flower, immediately you can imagine about it. And that's the importance of the language, how it has helped just by retaining the knowledge. In all the entire creation, for each and every generation, each and every being has to go through, they have to go through a set of, they have to go through all the set of experiences. But for us, the experiences which our predecessors have gone through, that has been encoded in the form of language. And when we resort to that language, that entire experience is as an available fund to us is always ready. We need not have to go through the same experiences again and again. And that's how, as a human being, we have as such taken a quantum leap in the evolution because of the language, because of the scripts, because of the mathematical notations. But at the same time, we told that it can be highly afflictive. Because in the modern world, what to speak of in the modern world, in the entire history, all the big disasters are because of, again, this verbal delusion, vikalpa. How? All the war, behind which you will find a propaganda is one of the tools which is used to create a sense of enmity towards someone, which actually there is no reason for it. It's through the propaganda, through some false agenda. We will find some imaginations, some visualization is created in the common mass to confuse them, to delude them. And again, the world has been ravaged by war, turmoils, tensions, if not war, by Cold War. All these are happening because, again, of the verbal delusion. You will find all the things which are are coming out as news, most probably of them, quite a great percentage is a deliberate lie, has been used for some vested interest, and it is, we are not specifying any particular country or any particular person. It has been the norm for the entire humanity throughout the history. If we study the history, we will find it has happened again and again. And that way, verbal delusion can be afflictive. But as we told, each of these vrittis can be used, can be abused. Yes, it can be abused, but it can be used even for the spiritual purpose. Why? All the spiritual ideas which we have after reading the scriptures is at present mere imagination. Unless I realize it, it is mere imagination. In the last class, we gave that example. Suppose a person who have tasted mango goes and speaks about the taste of mango to a group of people who have not tasted. He says, mango is sweet and it has a wonderful flavor. Now we get a general knowledge about it. And by that, if we think we have understood the taste of mango, we will be just committing a great mistake. The taste of mango, which we think we have understood just by hearing the words, is a mere imagination. The day we will taste the mango for the first time, we will understand that it was all mere imagination, which had nothing to do with the real taste. Now, three types of people may be there. Some, after hearing about the taste of mango, may just forget about it. And there may be another group of people who may go on discussing on it, thinking that they have understood it. And the third, a few people may be really motivated to go and test the mango. The one who is motivated to go and taste the mango, they at last will end up in realization. They will understand, till they tasted the mango, the idea of the mango which they had just by hearing about its taste was a mere imagination. So today's imagination becomes tomorrow's realization. In spiritual life, the same thing happens. After hearing the scriptures, most of us are quite satisfied just by discussing on it. We never take it seriously. We don't get motivated to really dive deep, intensify our practice, and go to the state where the truth is as palpable as a fruit in my hand. As Bhagavat Pada Shankaracharya used to say, Karatala Amala Kavat. Just you're holding a fruit in your hand, the way it is palpable, it is tangible. The ultimate truth is something like that way can be realized. It can be realized the same way. It need not be just some mere intellectual speculation. It need not be just restricted to the level of make-believes, to the level of doctrines and dogmas. That what we have as a visualization today, as an imagination today, it can lead to realization if we follow the prescribed mode of sadhana, spiritual practice. So that way, vikalpa is not bad. That today's imagination, if I hold on to it and go through some specific practices, it can take us to the realization. For us today, all the fight in the name of religion is only because we are satisfied with the belief. There is no fund of realization behind our belief. And as a result, whenever we have some belief, we are bound to vary with each other. Just in that example, the group of people who have not tasted the mango, some may just start thinking, oh, mango is sweet like molasses, and it has a fragrance like rose. Someone may say, no. It has the sweetness of honey and it has a fragrance of jasmine. Just see, as it is a mere belief, all are conjuring up their own ideas and the fight ensues. This holier than thou attitude in the name of religion ensues from mere beliefs behind which there is no fund of experience. So here the scripture is saying, don't remain restricted in just mere belief. Belief is belief. All the beliefs are blind. The fight that my belief is better than yours is something which is a hogwash nonsense. After all, it is a belief. It's just a mere belief. Have you seen it? If you have not seen it, it's a mere belief. And the biggest interesting thing is that in all the religions you will find the mystics, those who were not merely satisfied with the beliefs, with the doctrines and dogmas, who went to the realization, they all speak in the same language. People say that there is so much variation in the doctrines and dogmas, in the rituals, in the way we practice the religion. Where is the unifying factor? You say that all the religions preach the same thing. Yes, it preaches the same thing. If you can really have the patience to hear to the mystics, those who claim that religion has been realized by them, it's not a mere belief. There you will find they're speaking the same language. As Ramakrishna used to say, Shekhane Shab Shealer Ek Ra. All the fox howls in the same manner when they go to that realization, that unitary experience, that the sense that I am this little individual being that melts off to give you a sense of non-local consciousness, which is all pervading, which has no locality. That's that idea of that unitary, that unifying experience, which all the mystics in all the religions and all the faiths have spoken of. And there lies the unity in all the religions. So let's try to go to the realization instead of just remaining satisfied in the beliefs, in the doctrines, in the dogmas. Then we will find there is no clash, there is no difference of opinion. So religion, so that's why we will find again and again in the complete work, Swami is saying, very simple word, religion is realization. Otherwise, it's mere talk. If all this talk doesn't lead to that realization, we are not motivated to realize the truth, then it is futile, it is useless. So that way, if all this vikalpa at present, in the name of religious belief, motivates us to to evolve to that realization, then vikalpa is something which is aklishta, non-afflictive. Otherwise, in the name of religion, vikalpa can be highly afflictive, which the history has proven again and again. The religions of the world which speaks of peace has been the cause of maximum disharmony, violence, bloodshed, because that vikalpa never ended up in realization. We were quite satisfied with all our vague imaginations, and with that, all our this false, holier than thy attitudes. It has ended up in war, turmoil, tension. So vikalpa can be non-afflictive if we take it in the proper sense and get motivated to evolve spiritually so that it can take us to that unitary experience which the mystics of all the religions have realized, have went to that state. So with this, for the time being, we conclude our discussion on the 9th sutra. Now we will proceed to the 10th sutra. So, which is the 4th type of vritti in the 10th sutra has been spoken of, which is the deep sleep. So, I will just share the screen with you. So here, So what is the 11th sutra? Which defines the deep sleep. This is also a type of vritti. Deep sleep is also a type of vritti. What's the what's the vritti nature is, the characteristic is, that has been described in the, actually is the 10th sutra. By mistake I have mentioned it is 11. It is the 10th sutra. Abhava pratyaya alambana vritti nidra. So each and every word again is very significant. Abhava means absence. Of what? Pratyaya. As we told that how we gain knowledge, the mind is constantly breaking up into mental modifications, into waves, thought waves. It never stops. It's constantly there. As long as the mind is there, the vrittis, the mental modifications, are bound to be there. And what is the knowledge? That all the waves, in that whatever is reflected, that is knowledge. The thing which is reflected is called pratyaya. Just to give an example, in the ocean, the surface of the ocean is breaking into waves. And on the sky, the sun is shining. On each of the waves, the sun is being reflected. That reflection of the sun, is the pratyaya. That's how we get the knowledge. If we just take that example to understand the nature of the mind, our mind, like the ocean, is constantly breaking into waves, constantly. We cannot stop it. It's constantly breaking into these modulations. These are called the vrittis. When I am seeing, suppose a red flower in front of me, what is happening? That each and every mental modulation is reflecting the so-called flower. The reflection of the flower is in each and every vritti, so I have the perception of the flower. And sometimes what happens, the thing which I am seeing is not properly reflected. But then also a type of pratyaya happens, that is viparyaya. We already studied that a rope is lying in the dark, I see it as snake. So what is happening? There's a rope outside, but because of the lack of proper light, the reflection is not the rope, the reflection is a snake. And that's why I see it as a snake. That is viparyaya. So some reflection has to be there for the knowledge, whether it is a right knowledge or wrong knowledge. If the reflection is correct, then it is the right knowledge. If the reflection is not correct, then it is viparyaya, the delusion. And sometimes there is no object outside, but I can imagine. Like all the cartoon characters, Batman, Spider-Man, the children are so much absorbed with all those characters, but they don't exist. But they can easily imagine. The moment you say the word Batman, immediately it can imagine. It takes it to be as if real, but it is actually, it has no reality. So that is vikalpa. There also some pratyaya, some content is in the way, in each and every mental wave. But that content has no reality. That already we have studied as vikalpa. Now nidra is something very interesting. We generally have the idea that when we are sleeping, the mind is at rest, in the deep sleep, when we are not even dreaming, when we are in the deep sleep state, shushupti, when the mind is at rest. Very interesting. Thousands of years back. Now the modern neurology will say you, yes, even in deep sleep, the mind is not just a flat curve. It has a particular type of wave. It is still having mental modulations. Now with the help of modern science, neurology, by doing the fMRI of the brain, we can find out. But very interesting, thousands of years back, the yogi, the Patanjali knew this very well, that you can never stop the mind of its mental modulations. It's always there. But what's then the deep sleep state? The modulations are there, but the modulations as such have no contents. So pratyaya means the contents, abhava means absence. So the waves are still there, but the contents of the waves is just nil, nothing is there. To just relate it, in the new moon night, dark night, then what happens? In the ocean, the waves are there, but the waves have no reflection. So deep sleep state is something like that. The waves are still there. The mind is still breaking constantly to mental modifications, but the waves have no contents, no pratyaya. So no knowledge as such is generated. So deep sleep is a state where vrittis, that is the mental modifications, have no contents. Now, this is very interesting that if there were no mental modifications, then most probably we would have never remembered that we had a very nice sleep. That we remember when we wake up that we had a very nice sleep is a proof to the fact that the mind was still having modulations, but yes, they had no content. That's why we had a feeling, oh, we had such a nice sleep. So since we can remember when we wake up that we had been sleeping, sleep is also a mental modification. If during sleep there is no cognition of the inert state, then on waking, one should not have remembered the experience. We will try to understand this with the help of an example. So here is the example. Suppose a person, we name the person A, is sitting in a room throughout the day. In a room, he is sitting throughout the day. Maybe it's the shrine. In one corner of the shrine, he is sitting there throughout the day. And he, now as he's sitting there, he knows what is going on in that room throughout the day. So he sees from 7 to 8 a.m. another person, let us say that his name is B. He came and he was sitting there for meditation. A is the one who is watching. So A knows that from 7 to 8, B was there. From 8 to 9, no one was there. Now A knows that from 8 to 9, no one was there. From 9 to 10, again some other person came, say his name is C. C was there. Now very interesting. In our mind, you will find what is happening. We can have the knowledge of sequential experience which we are having in the waking state. All the things which happens, we can relate. That in the morning such and such thing happened, then I went to the office, there such and such thing happened. If we can all relate in a sequential manner. So now yoga says, unless there is a witness, how can we have the experience of all the sequence of events? It wouldn't have been possible. So unless some witness is there, neither we can have this connection between the sequential of events, that B came, left, C came, left. Unless someone is there, B doesn't know that C ever C is going to come. C never knows that B came, because they came at different times. So unless someone is there as a witness, who can correlate those? So that's a very nice way of just having a logic to understand the idea that there must be some witness who is witnessing all the states of our mind. Just in this example, if A is not there, can B ever know that C is going to come? Because they are coming in different time. Can C know that B came? Can B know that there was no one from 8 to 9? No, because he has left at 8. So when, as we say that in the daytime we had such and such experience, then at night we had a very nice deep sleep. This speaks that there is someone who is witnessing all these states of the mind. So now, so that is being indicated in this next line. Now, unless A is there, no one is there to relate about B and C. Neither can one relate the absence of anyone. Like 8 to 9, there was no one. That is a deep sleep state. Who is relating that? Unless there is some witness, no one can relate to that. So this proves that there is a witness of our waking state, of our dream state, as well as of our deep sleep state. So now, Thus, it has to be assumed that Purusha, or the conscious principle, is always there to witness all the vrittis. So from this sutra, this can be concluded that the conscious principle is there as the eternal witness of all the vrittis. Now, as we have seen, it was mentioned that all the vrittis can be klishta as well as aklishta. We studied it long back in the previous sutra, that each and every vritti can be klishta, afflictive and non-afflictive. Now, deep sleep, we feel that it is a non-afflictive. There is no question of it being afflictive. It is always non-afflictive. But our scripture says no, even deep sleep state can be both afflictive and non-afflictive. How? Now, you will find a very interesting thing that when before going to sleep, suppose most probably I was trying to solve some mathematics. I was trying to solve. I tried my best. I couldn't get a solution. In the morning, I wake up and suddenly I feel that the solution is there in my mind. I just take my pen and just sit down to solve the problem, and I find the solution has come out. It's a very common experience. It happens with all of us. Not only that, in the scientific world, those who conduct research, those who are research students, for them, it is a very, very common experience that they had some problem which they were trying their best to deal with. When they were focused, at last they couldn't come to any solution. And next day morning, suddenly they find that everything, all the ideas have as if riveted to give a very wholesome meaning of it. So this happens we will find in our day-to-day experience. It happens. So why it happens? So we may think that when in the deep sleep state, we are not in the deep sleep state, that the mind is totally non-functioning. It's not functioning at all. It's not the case. In the deep sleep state also, what is happening is very interesting. Even in the modern science, it has been proven. What it has been proven? That when we are focused, in the wakeful state, we are focused, mind is gathering the informations. Whatever informations from the external world, I'm constantly gathering in. When the mind is relaxed or in a deep sleep, then another thing happens. All the things which you have gathered in, now the processing starts. They start to relate with each other. And because of that processing, we will find there's a leap in our knowledge, suddenly a jump. We will find some wonderful connection has been made with all this processing. And then we find that that leads to some new knowledge. So that's why even for a student, this relaxation is very important. You will find sometimes the parents are seeing that the children are most probably solving some mathematics. They're trying to solve some, and there's some music being played in the background. And most of us have the idea that that's a distraction. How can that really help in solving the mathematics? Yes, it is a distraction if it is some jargon music, a very noisy, some music which is a very fast pace. It is too of high pitch, but that can be really distracting. But sometimes a soothing music can really help. How? The same way, when that soothing music relaxes the mind, and then that the processing of the information which is required to really solve the problem, you are enabling the mind to go to that phase where the processing happens. And then you will find suddenly the solution has came out. So now, though the deep sleep state seems to be without any cognition, but actually in the subconscious mind, something is going on. And that to certain extent is totally dependent on with what thought you went to the deep sleep state. So now you will find even sleep, deep sleep, can be very, very spiritually rejuvenating. How? if. That's the thing which is been indicated. That's how deep sleep can be aklishta or non-afflictive. How it can be? The deep sleep before and after which the thought of self predominates. And the duration of deep sleep, which is just enough for health, is aklishta. So two factors. The first factor is the deep sleep before and after which the thought of self predominates. That's why you will find in all the religion, there is a concept of vigil. That before going to sleep, pray. In Christianity also, the idea of vigilance is there, that you just keep some moment awake. Try to keep yourself awake with the thought of the divine. When you wake up, let the first thought be of the divine. There was one totally unlettered disciple of Ramakrishna, Latu Maharaj. But he had a tremendous faith which took him to the ultimate realization just by faith. Latu Maharaj was there to prove that. He was such a simple soul. He have heard that when you wake up, you should always, first of all, see something holy. The form, the image of either deity or read some holy scriptures or think something holy thoughts. Now, Latu Maharaj was very interesting. Whenever he used to stay in Dakshineshwar, in the morning he will wake up and he will just close his eyes with his hand and he will go on shouting, "Oh Ramakrishna, where are you?" Ramakrishna had to come in his presence. Then only he will open his eyes and see him first. So it's a very childish way, but that speaks of that faith. That's the thing, that when I go to sleep, when I come out of the sleep, the first thought should be of the divine. With the thought of the divine, I go to sleep. With the thought of the spiritual ideal which I have. If I am quite happy with the idea that I don't find pleasure in thinking of some divine form, but I have the idea that I am the conscious principle. Yes, well and good. Thinking of that idea, go to the sleep, come out with the idea of that, the idea of the self. And if you are a devotee, of course, with the thought of the God, you can go to sleep, come out of it. Then what happens, as we were speaking, that in the deep sleep state, though the mind is as such, having no pratyaya, but in the subconscious mind, the processing, that which we were speaking of, the thought which you were thinking, now that starts as if getting processed. So what's the processing happens here? The thought of the divine now gets linked with all your thoughts which is in the subconscious mind. It starts pervading all your thoughts. So when you wake up again with that thought, it becomes very easy. You will find it becomes very spontaneous to keep some part of your mind with the thought of the divine, with the thought of yourself, even when you are engrossed in your day-to-day activities. So that way you have enabled your mind to remain to a certain extent with the thought of the divine. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that the thought of the divine should become like your pain, in the pain of the tooth. It should become like the toothache. Very interesting, one of our Swamis, an old Swami, he was very jovial. Someone asked, "Have you heard of, oh Swami?" Some junior monk went and asked him, "Swami, have you ever heard of transcendental meditation?" In those days, it was quite famous, and even now it is quite famous, transcendental meditation. So this old Swami told, "Oh no, I haven't heard of it. I'm not aware of it, but I am aware of dental meditation." So the young Swami was quite curious. He had never heard of this dental meditation. So he asked the old Swami, "What is dental meditation?" That I have never heard of dental meditation. I have, of course, heard of this transcendental meditation. Then the old Swami told, "Okay, well, Ramakrishna has taught us dental meditation." And then he explained that when you have toothache, whatever you may be doing, you can never forget that ache. It is always there with you. It is always there in the background, whatever you may be doing. So the thought of the divine or the thought of the self should become like the toothache. It should always be in the background of our mind. And the deep sleep, entering into the deep sleep and coming out of the deep sleep with the thought of the divine helps to a great extent to have to enable the thought of the divine to permeate our entire day-to-day activity. And it always remains there in the background, giving you a wonderful sense of calmness and serenity, even in this mad rush of all the actions. So that way, even deep sleep can become non-afflictive. And it can become afflictive if, with all sorts of thoughts which engrosses me in my day-to-day activities, with that thought I go, and again with that thought I come back. Then I will find that throughout the day I am unnecessarily stressed. There is no factor of stress, but I feel stressed out, because that the stress is the thing which has permeated your entire psyche where you are in the deep sleep. That's the processing which has happened. So it's always advisable to go to sleep with that calmness by thinking of yourself, and to come out with that thought of the self as the first thought. That without doing anything as such, we are helping a great deal to deal with our psyche in all our activities throughout the day. So that's how the deep sleep can be non-afflictive. Now, let us go to the next sutra, which defines the last type of vritti. There are the 5 vritti, as we mentioned. The first was the pramana, the viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra. These 4 we have already described. The last is memory, the smriti. How it is defined? Anubhava vishaya asamprosha smritihi. The 11th sutra. Anubhava, whatever you experience, vishaya. Whatever the vishaya means, whatever thing you experience, that is anubhava. That again can be brought back to your psyche. It can just come back without any adulteration. Asamprosha means I don't edit it. I don't add up something to it or delete something. Just as it is, the thing I have experienced, as it is, I can again come back to my conscious mind. And this faculty of bringing to my conscious mind the thing which I have experienced previously, without adulterating it, without modifying it, without editing it, is memory, smriti. So recollection is mental modification caused by reproduction of previous impression of an object without adding anything from other sources. So that's the thing which has been spoken of as memory. So now this is also a thing, it's not mere abstract definition. It has a lot of implications. How it can help us in our spiritual life, to that discussion we will just enter gradually. Now, we all have memory. Now we all want to improve our memory, increase our memory. We find that's a big challenge, that so many things we feel that we shouldn't forget, but we forget. Especially in studies, it happens. So what's the way to have a very good memory? So generally we have an idea that the best way of having a better memory is to revise the thing again and again. Yes, that's the way. But even revision, the number of revisions required to keep the memory can be minimized. And it can only be once. There are many smritidharas that if they hear anything once, they remember. So it would have been a wonderful thing if it happens with all of us. What's the secret of that type of memory? The secret of that type of memory is more the concentration, more is the memory. If we are not concentrated, then even in spite of the fact we go on repeating, we go on revising the thing, it will never get imprinted in our memory. To give a common example, with the example we will understand. Suppose we are just driving our car. We are on the road and we are driving the car, and we are almost in the verge of an accident. It was going to be a very serious accident, but somehow by God's grace, I averted the accident. It didn't happen. I felt that it was about to be a very severe accident, but somehow at the last moment, it was averted. Very interesting. That's a singular occasion. It's not that it is happening repetitively in your life, but that incident throughout your life, you will never forget. If anyone asks you in details, each and every moment, what happened at that time when you were about to meet that accident, you will just give the exact details. You never forget. There are so many things we forget, but why don't we forget this? Because that was a situation where my life was in danger. And in such situation, what happens? We just develop a tremendous focus out of fear, out of that tremendous fear. We get a tremendous focus. The mind is totally focused at that event. And the time as it becomes slow. Everything is happening as if in slow motion. That event must have happened in few seconds, but it appears as if quite a long time have passed. And all the things are recorded by the mind in vividly. No details is left out. And that is imprinted deeply in your mind. And you never forget throughout your life. So now you will understand memory is not only dependent on repetitions or revisions. It is actually dependent more significantly on the concentration. The more we are concentrated, the more is our memory. Now the next question comes, how to increase our concentration? If by increasing concentration we can have memory, then again, but I cannot concentrate, that's the next question. Then again, the increase the concentration, the more the sense of necessity, the more the concentration. In our life, most of the time that happens. But even when as a student I am studying, I have no as such, for most of the students it happens, that they don't have a very clear picture of their future. No such set goal, what they want. There is no such tremendous urge to reach that goal. That sense of necessity is not there. They're just going by the flow. As a result, what happened? Because of the lack of sense of necessity, there's the concentration, the mind is not focused. That the sense of necessity, the more the sense of necessity, the more the concentration. We can understand again also with the help of an example. You'll find, suppose a surgeon is operating on a patient. The same surgeon who was standing most probably for some reason in a bus stand to catch a bus, or was in the railway station to catch a train. As the train or the bus was delayed just by 10 or 15 minutes, the surgeon was quite uncomfortable. He started developing ache in his legs. The same surgeon, when he is in the operation theater operating on the patient, what to speak of 10-15 minutes, even if he is doing some very complicated operation for hours together, 7 hours, 8 hours, for that time you will find he has forgotten his hunger, thirst, tiredness, nothing. It was only after the operation is over, all those things comes to his awareness. As long as he was operating, he forgot hunger, he forgot thirst, he forgot tiredness. He was extremely focused. That focus made him forget all the things. He was so focused. Why he was focused? Because of sense of necessity. What's the necessity? The surgeon knows very well a little carelessness may be at the cost of the life of the patient. His mind is totally focused at the end of the scalpel. A little mistake can take away the patient's life. That gives the sense of necessity. From that comes that concentration. The same surgeon who was feeling the ache in his legs just by standing 15 minutes in the railway station now is able to go on with the operation for hours. What has happened? Because of the tremendous focus which came out of the sense of necessity that enables him to forget other things. He is totally focused in that. So now we can conclude. What we can conclude? That the sense of necessity, the more the sense of necessity, the more the yearning. We will come in some future sutra, the idea of samvega, tivra samvega, that tremendous yearning. The more the sense of necessity, the more the yearning. The more the sense of necessity, and more the yearning, the more the concentration. And more the concentration, the more is the smriti. When your mind is focused, the thing that gets impressed in your mind, it's never going to get diluted. It's a very strong memory. And we know that the memory at last gets converted into reflex. What's the reflex? When I'm sleeping, I don't have to take any conscious decision. If some hot body touches me, my hand will be repelled from that automatically. If someone touches something hot on my hand, without taking any conscious decision, hand will be repelled. How it has happened? Sometimes I have taken the decision consciously. When I was awake, some hot thing touched me. I was not very comfortable. I found that it is hurting me. I consciously took away my hand. This conscious action again and again got converted into reflex. Now you don't have to take a conscious decision. It just happens spontaneously. So now you will find that how this smriti really helps to transform our actions into reflex. A good student need not have to even think that I have to study. It has become his reflex. He will just go to the that he will resort to the studies as if it has become his reflex. He doesn't have to take conscious decision. It happens spontaneously. How? Because of the sense of necessity, the tremendous concentration has led to tremendous smriti. Is the idea that that what the studies is going to lead him where, the studies is going to lead him where, that is always in his mind, imprinted, and that has got transformed into reflex. So how it helps us spiritually? So at present, all necessity emanates from our identity of us with asmita. Then at present, all the reflex, as we were saying, that as I think I am this body-mind complex, as I am always attached to that idea, as a result, what happened? My reflexes are corresponding to it. What's the reflex? That's anything hot body touches, even when I'm sleeping, it gets repelled. But by constant abhyasa or practice, that I am not the body, not the mind, not the senses. I am the Atman. I am the conscious principle. We can change our reflex. If that becomes the memory, that becomes our imprinted memory, that again gets converted into reflex. And your total personality is overhauled. We will end today's class with one example. Naren's testing Sri Ramakrishna with a coin. That how the reflex can change. For us, that we find that the money is something very important. Ramakrishna was, when he was doing his spiritual practice, it came to his mind that this gold, this wealth is something which is a great impediment in the spiritual journey, because wealth always is associated with a lot of concerns. It's bound to get associated with so many concerns. So he relinquished all sorts of wealth to the extent that he won't touch the coins. It became, as he was such a sincere adherent to such a practice, we find in his life that his reflexes changed. Even unaware, if you would touch the coin, If you touch a coin, even unconsciously, if he touches it, immediately he will feel a pain, a tremendous pain in his body, as if a scorpion has stung him. When he used to say that I cannot touch any metal, I cannot touch coin, Naren never believed. To test him, one day when Ramakrishna was not present in his room, he placed a coin on below the mattress of his bed. When Ramakrishna returned, sat on the bed, the coin was below the mattress. He jumped up. Naren couldn't believe that it is possible. He jumped up and called his nephew to find if anything is there, and the coin was found out. So Ramakrishna understood that someone is testing him, and he found that Naren is testing. He was happy that, yes, don't believe. Just don't simply believe. That see a holy person in the day, in the night. That the holiness is something which is a 24 hours affair. It cannot be a part-time affair. So see, and then only you judge him. So he was happy that he was tested by Naren. And Naren, in response, we will find he found out a wonderful definition of education. Even in the West, when he was preaching, Swami Vivekananda was preaching in the West. In so many places, he is defining education as the nervous association of ideas. That unless the ideas get converted into reflex, that is no education at all. It's to totally overhaul your personality. And that's what Smriti can do. So now you will find that how Smriti can also be accomplished. So with this, we stop our discussion. The next class, that how to get that this, now we had an idea of these vrittis. Now how to go above the vrittis, how to get rid of the vrittis, how to transform the vrittis into some spiritual vrittis. So that we will take study as a summary that of all these sutras, and then go to the next sutra, which speaks of the main practices to attenuate the vrittis, to reduce the intensity of our mental modulations, so that we can attain more and more calmness and serenity in our life. What are the two main practices by which we can attenuate the vrittis, we can reduce their intensity, and we can at last totally restrict them, so that we can have more and more serenity and calmness, and at last it can take us to the ultimate spiritual evolution, which ends up with the realization, the kaivalya, the state of emancipation. So we will come gradually to those sutras. With this, we stop our discussion today.
Namaskar. Good night.
Namaskar. Good night. So I'm ending the class here.